Hello there, ICS4C folks. Hopefully you've got this Smart Notebook file in front of you. You can just add your own comments and feelings to this document as we go. I'm going to be using Notepad++, but probably you could get most of the same stuff out of JSBin if you choose. I've got the basic skeleton here, and basically what we've been doing the last couple of days is goofing around with HTML HTML form elements, GUI, graphical user interface. And so remember, the idea here is this one's going to be a text input, but we saw that they can be all sorts of different things. And then if I were to save this and run this, pretty boring. This is the old 3C skeleton that I'm using here. Remember when all our output had to be to the console, but pretty much that's what we're going to be doing today anyway. And there's our input box, and you know, so far they hasn't done anything. We've just sort of set up and named the elements, but the next few days, and actually for the rest of the unit now, we're going to be grabbing that data. And so how do we do that? Well, this is what I'm talking about in the lesson here. GUI is just a bunch of boxes and labels until we can pull the data into our JavaScript programs. There are several ways of doing this, and this lesson covers a couple. So using regular JavaScript, remember that we need to link our JavaScript file to our HTML. That's easy to do in JSBin, but once we're out there in the real world, remember you have to write that line in your HTML code. Right there is where it is. That has a connection to your JavaScript, and look at all the JavaScript I've got going there so far, not very much. But remember that you need that link. First, we grab an element of our web page by ID or class or name. So it says some var equals document.getElement by ID, my ID. And so I'm going to copy that line, put it into my JavaScript file. Now notice that the ID actually has to match whatever. What did I call my input thing there? I called it my input. So the ID is my input. This could be name, or this could be class, or whatever. And we'll see some advantages of using one versus the other as we go along. Pretty much, if it works, do it that way. Okay? That's my suggestion to you. So I called it my input. And so let's, for now, just console.log some var and see what happens. So I'm going to save that and then reload our wonderful page, and F12 to see if that logged it. F12, and it says null. Null. Well, it didn't work, did it? Well, it doesn't work because what happens is in my JavaScript, it's trying to do these things. It's running this code before any of this stuff exists, right? It doesn't even exist. So this is run, and it asks to grab stuff from my HTML document before this input box has even been created. So one thing I could do, if I wanted to, is just move the position of my script. Okay, let's make our input box before we go and get stuff. Okay, so we should be able to make it there, run our code, and something should happen. Let's just see if something happens. Normal reload. There, it actually grabbed it and prints out what looks to be an object. And it is. It's an object of some sort. Notice that some var is now just an object in our JavaScript program. So we console logged out some var, which is an object, and we access its attributes and functions like any other object. So for instance, what we would like to do is grab its value, usually. So over there, Let's go sumvar.value. Save that, run it, and we'll see that this isn't what we want either. And it says input.myInput, and what is that doing? Well, it's not doing anything. There's nothing there. It didn't work. I didn't even get a chance to press hello in there or whatever. It didn't connect. And that makes sense because it's running this code before the user gets to run this. So just to show you that this sumvar.value can work is, oh, I got to save that actually. Make sure I didn't lie to you. Yeah, see, nothing there, nothing there, nothing there. Go back and let's give it a value. I mean, this is one thing that we talked about when we set up our GUI, is that we could have a default value. Something good. That's going to be the default value. So if it's not changed, it's going to have that default value, something good. And now, if I run it, it's going to actually have that value, something good. And in fact, it prints out there. And even if I change it, I can't press enter or anything like that. It doesn't work. And that's not exactly what we want either, is it? So we can access all the stuff about sumvar, but not necessarily how we want to. So we will want certain attributes of the form elements and at specific times. We need to control the flow of the form entry. So one good practice, and we kind of got around it by having a default value and by changing the position where the script is. But one good practice is not to start running JavaScript code until the window or document is loaded. So this line here, window.onload, we'll talk about that in a moment, is a good practice to have. So the very first line is going to be a my function to start. So then I'm going to have a function here called my, and my function to start is maybe a little bit long. You could call it whatever you wanted to. And it's a function like this. And this is actually what's going to be done once the window loads. And we had a little bit of reading about the DOM, the document object model. And that's, this is what it's communicating with that. When it's on load, then we're going to run this JavaScript code. Essentially, it's going to do the same thing because it's going to load and then run this code so fast the user hasn't had any chance to do anything anyway. So I'm not even going to run that. That'll be the same deal. How am I doing for time? I'm going to say maybe one more thing, finish this note, and then we'll go on to the next one. It says, here it says, this line is similar to the $document.ready we saw in jQuery. Note, you still need to write this function. So we've pulled this trick before. With this idea is only run this code once the document has loaded. Once the web page is loaded, then run your JavaScript. Well, this is the no jQuery version, the window.onload. There's no jQuery going on here yet. Good. So where are we? Well, we're grabbing values of our web page, but we really haven't had, I can't enter something in here and then get it to print out from our program. So there's no user interaction yet. What would be great is if we had the user type something and then have some other way to trigger that being put into your JavaScript. And that's what where we'll pick up part 2.